All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back into the Dragon's Den. Hope everyone's having a good weekend. Pull this up a little bit. There we go. I hope everyone's having a good weekend. We're having a pretty busy day today. I was going to try and start streaming more around 7:30ish, but unfortunately, we'll say life got in the way. We had some customers that came in with an issue with their P1S, and we needed to solve that for them because they drove like an hour and a half up from South Carolina to come have it looked at. So we were like, yep, nope, we'll go ahead and try and push through and get this one fixed tonight. So, like I said, welcome on in, everybody. I hope everybody's having a great day. I do want to make a public service announcement. I will also make this comment later in the stream once more people get here. I am now starting to form an opinion on at least one type of filament that you can get at Hobby Lobby. Okay. I have now serviced two machines, one a FlashForge 85M and one a Bamboo Lab P1S. In both cases, the customer was using the Hobby Lobby PLA wood filament. And in both cases, it was clogged down deep in the hot end itself. It was below the cold zone and below the heat break, but in the bottom portion of the nozzle itself. And I'll show you guys here in a second kind of what I was seeing when I pushed stuff out finally. And hey, Eagle the Dragon, how's it going? Let me see if I can down a little bit and bring you all in a little. Okay, so this is what I was finally able to get pushed out. Once I got that pushed out, this is the color of the filament that was able to come out. I had to physically take the hot end off the machine because at 280, I could not get this pushed out with the hot end in the machine. I had to take the hot end out, heat it up on the bench in order to get this stuff out, which came out in like big blobs. So I would say if you're intent on trying out the Hobby Lobby filaments, wood PLA is probably not the best one to go with. All right, just saying. How's it going? A bit nuts? Hope you're doing well. A self-clogging filament, yep. Hey, Da Vinci, welcome in, welcome in. I see two or three people over in the stream on YouTube. Don't know who you are, but welcome on in. And what we've got here is our UNIMOG kit. Came in from KB3D, and I like the fact that they are nice enough. And as if I don't have enough of these, he brought me an entire bag of these. I have like 300 of them. But I get a new multi-tool, right? You got a magnet at one end. You've got a flathead screwdriver, which doubles as a pry bar, triples as a scraper for various bits and bobs. And I use it to pry off support sometimes. And I love the fact that it has a magnet on it because I leave these things under every one of my workbenches. And I probably got, 3 of them now on this workbench. So, gotta love those. But we got our UNIMOG kit in. So, awesome kit. My UNIMOG, as it stands right now, is sitting right over off the screen to the back. And we've got, if you remember right, we finished I finished the cab. And on last stream, Thursday night, we did the whole flatbed. So we had the whole flatbed done. What lubricant am I using on the rails? I am using Mobilux EP2 on my rails, on my rat rig and everything else. So I use Mobilux EP2. Dude, have I said how much I love LDO motors? One, we get the nice little documents folder that will have a complete inventory of the kit. So you get a complete inventory of the kit that you can go through and verify. And also in this part of the kit, or in this envelope, are all of our pre-cut windows. Now, I have already built one of the cabs. I am seriously considering 3D printing a whole nother cab in a different color just to have the ability to switch them out at different times. And I may actually make it so that I can switch the cab and have the camper that is color coordinated with the cab itself so that I can do both. I know they say no PTFE. Yeah, I just saw something on the Casadio, and we'll see it in the manual, where they said to use whatever, but PTFE-based lubricants are starting to be banned in some countries. And so I had two options for this. One was going to be the Super Lube, right? And Super Lube, this is the NLGI grade 2, but this is a multi-purpose synthetic grease with Syncolon. It's heavy duty, dielectric, food grade, but I believe, I'll have to double check, but you can get these like in a couple different formulations, and I think the stuff I have, which may still be at the house, literally said that it had PTFE in it. So this may have it. We'll see. I also have Ghost Gear Grease. Now this is a white, I believe this is plastic to plastic gear grease. But this might be white lithium, which may cause an issue with, and cause like PLA to swell. So I don't know, we'll see. We have our documentation down here. We've got our battery pack. Boy. Grab that in a second. The motors, and I'm going to double check here to see motors. Okay, yeah. Motor flange will have the servo motors, right? Two servo motors, one for the front and one for your rearmost axle, whether that's 4x4 or the third one on the 6x6, and that camera froze. I have really got to figure out what is going on with that camera. Maybe let me see if I can't follow the cable around, and we'll put it in a different slot. See if that will square it away. But it also has the battery charger and the actual motor that we're going to use. This is a Hobby Wing Quick Run Fusion brushless system for crawler 2-in-1. 40 amp, 1200 kilovolt, suitable for a 1/10 scale rock crawler. So we've got that, the motor flange, which will be important. We'll need those two things. In fact, I'm just going to pull those out and leave them over here. I don't think we'll get to the servos tonight, but the goal is going to be to get the initial gearbox done. Hey, Timor, how's it going? The battery should just be the straight battery pack. So lithium ion, 3200 milliamp hours. So pretty nice there. Put these aside. The hardware and cables. See if the bench side camera came back or if it's going to wig out now. Completely wigged out. All right, let me see if I can fix that. Okay, so we get our servo wire extensions and some battery wire extensions and so forth. Got our shocks. Another set of drivers. We'll have our springs. These are some pretty hefty springs. Nice. Some Falcon. This is oil for the shocks. We will have to put oil in the shocks. Lots of grease. So we have grease that we can use, or we can use the gear grease that we bought. 70 bearings. Some MR63 smaller bearings. And of course, fasteners, because that camera froze again. Okay, so we'll leave, I think, most of this out. I'll put the springs and the shocks and stuff over here, and they'll go back into the box. But the hardware and the bearings I'll keep out because we will be using that stuff tonight. And this is what I like about LDO. Clear PET G. I keep forgetting to go to the house and grab the Clear PET G. You need this for the lenses for the headlights, and you could potentially use this. It calls for a like a translucent yellow to use for the I'll say like the driving lights that would go across the top of the cab, but you can also print it in clear and then dye it yellow. And hey, Wick Central, how's it going? Big jar of Mission Automotive silicone grease, probably safe. Use that in your RC gearboxes. Yeah, and that's the thing is I know that there's various greases that we can use. Like I said, here's grease packets that they provide, and I was also hearing a lot about the Ghost Gear being safe for all plastics. So we'll give that a shot. They've got the clear. Guess what? We have transparent yellow, once again for those upper lights. And wait, there's more. Transparent red. This will be used for your rear tail lights. So all three filaments, I was trying to see and debate whether I was going to have to open up some stock filament. We got. So yay, LDO. Okay. Some M2 by 30 machine screws just hanging out there by themselves. So, all right. The rest of the box, we've got the RC controller. In this case, it's a FS-GT5 digital proportional radio control system. So let's see. 6 channels, 2.4 gigahertz protocol, less than 15 millisecond delay on the channels. Normally it says how many like models or presets you can run with a single remote. I'll have to look into this some more, but FlySky is pretty common. And then we've got 4 of our rock crawler tires, and these have foam in them. So these already have foam cut and installed in them, which is interesting because I printed the TPU insides. So we'll probably go with these since they're already there. Wish I had realized that before I printed the TPU ones, but so be it. And that's it. That's all that's in the box. So for now, we'll go ahead and just take the box and set it over there out of the way. And apparently, since my other camera is being dorkish today, sorry about that. I'm just trying to see if it was like way different temperature than the other one. Oh wow, I really jacked that camera up. Apologies. Hi. Throw you all down here some. We'll jump over to the browser window and grab the right browser. Okay. So still gonna have to pull you guys down some more to get you closer to the bench. Sorry, I'll suck in the belly. All right, and you'll see a little bit of fuzziness on the edge there. It's actually where it was picking up the actual base. So may have to try and pull this to me some. All right, there we go. Okay, manual. Yeah, you know they say no PTFE. Yeah, it's definitely a pretty big size model. A bit nuts. Like I said, let me grab the cab for those that weren't here before. So this is the cab. Just to give you an idea of size here, right? And doors do open. We do have the full interior already installed. And like I said, I think I'll keep the same interior color scheme, but I may be putting a different color for the outer body and then making that match the camper shell, because I'll probably do the camper shell as well and just kind of swap them in and out some as we do things. But tonight, I really wanted to start getting on the gearbox, so Probably what we'll do first is just distribute our screws and add them to our set of screw containers that we have here. So 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 16, 20, 25, 30 is what I've got. Let's go ahead and add these in where they be so that it makes life easier. So as many of you know from the stream on Thursday, we have the FT6 up. It's printing. Not the best all the time. Ooh, wow. Are these? M2 lock nuts. Holy crud. Those things are tiny. M3 by 10. There will be some M3 stuff, but the majority of stuff is going to be M2 size. So we have M2 lock nuts in both the black and the silver. And these things are tiny. I can see myself dropping those everywhere. M2 by 6. 155 of those. 256 M2 by 12s. We have plenty. These are M3 by 16s. Like I said, there are a couple of places where you'll use M3 hardware on this. The vast majority is M2 though. M3, 8, 10, and 16. M3, 4. M3, 12. M3, 20. M2 by 20. 181 of these. M3 by 25. M2 by 25, we got 85 of those. $523 M2 by 16. I'm going to leave this in the bag right now because my bin is already almost full. So we'll leave that there. M2 by 30. Be this one over here. 107 of these. I think I can get them in there. Close enough. I know we're going to get into these when we start doing the gears, and we use them a lot for reinforcing and holding them together. M2 by 8s, 233 of those. M2 by 10, 289 of these. And that's pretty much it. We've got our selection of fasteners there. Packets of grease, some bearings, some more bearings, and some garbage. Okay. You can open a hardware store. Exactly. And like I said, I bought a lot of screws so that I can start building the bed, building the cab, and things like that early. I wasn't going to try and buy the bearings though. The bearings can get expensive, and I know I had the kit coming in, so as soon as I got shipping notice on the kit, I was like, all right, no more buying screws and stuff. Hey, Tickering Techie. Hope you're doing well. Okay. So we're going to start doing the gearbox. And what I did was I went through and started trying to sort out different parts that we'll use today for the gearbox, which is the main motor gearbox housing. Okay, so we'll have some main parts here, and then we'll have various gear pieces that we're going to start putting together. A this one? No. This one? Oh, wait. I think it is this one. Ah! So, all of these parts, and I need to make sure if I'm looking at the right part. V2, V2, yes, yes, and yes. Okay, so all of these parts here are printed in Overture Easy Nylon. Okay, so all of my gears themselves were printed in nylon. Any of the housings, so the housings that these parts were going to go into were printed in the PLA. I didn't see a need to use expensive nylon for the actual housings. We just kept the expensive material to the parts that we're going to need it for additional wear resistance. And because I know we're going to be using this a lot, we're going to grab our fan tech out. It is fully charged, and I think, because it does say important, if the long screws are difficult to install, pre-tap the holes and apply a small amount of grease to the screws. So it wants us to pre-tap these holes if need be, and put a little dab of grease on the screws. I think we may do the grease just in the, I'm just going to put some of that grease that LDO gave us over here on a little baggie, and that way we can grease up our rail or our screws, make threading them in a little bit easier. Because why not? Pretty much one packet of grease down there. A little bit on my hands probably. And we're going to be using M3x20s here. And not a lot, we're just going to dip the end in the grease just to make it start going in a little bit easier and reduce the friction some. Alrighty. So one of the things on this manual is it'll go through and tell you to do a series of operations and then come back and say, now do this X number of times more, or do this for the other side. which means you kind of have to keep jumping back and forth in the manual to go see like, okay, what size screws did I use where again? So we just put our 2 screws at the end here, and we should be in there pretty tight. So we did M2 by 20. Now we're going to come in from the back side with one of these little nubs, and we're going to do M2 by 30 through the back side. And what I'm going to do, because I already know we're going to have to do this 3 times, I'm just going to go ahead and do each operation once and then jump over and do the other one. And I also am aware that Canuck Creator's overdoing his build. And I think he's getting pretty close. I think he had all 3 of his axles done on the last stream. Which is kind of cool. I'm not going to get there that fast. But I'm hoping to get like the gearbox done tonight, and then we can work on you know, the axles throughout the week. It's not like massively complex. It's just a lot of steps and a lot of different screw sizes along the way. So it is a little time consuming, I'll put it that way. And you definitely want a screwdriver. Do not be trying to do this by hand. You'll have carpal tunnel before you get the gearbox done. You're just putting a light dab of grease on here. You're not doing a whole lot. And it will kind of work its way through the threads to lubricate this as it's going in. Make the screws go in a little bit easier. Especially when you're dealing with 20 millimeter and 30 millimeter M2 screws. They're kind of a pain. So that was the 20s. We're going to grab the 30s now. And we're going to go into 2 different pieces. So what I'll do is I'll get it started in the 1. Get a little bit through the end, and that will let me line it up in the second part. I'm not going to tighten it all the way down just yet because I need to be able to move this around to line it up with the other hole. Might be easier said than done at this point. Here? No. All right, where are you at? This probably would be easier if I drill out the actual hole in these little nubs. There we go. One in. Whoops. All right. And the Fantech is, the reason I got this is it has multiple torque settings on it. And right now I'm just running it at the lowest torque setting, which is 0.5 Newton meter of torque. So I think what we'll do on this one is we'll get blow screws started, and that'll help us line up the screw going into the other part. Hey, Matt Al, how's it going? Happy Saturday to you too. I should have been wearing my coffee and lube stream shirt. Since we got the lube out already and we're lubing some stuff up. You drill out all the holes not threading into. You even tap several of the longer threaded holes. Yeah. Yeah, and that's probably a good idea. Had I thought about it, I would have drilled these out ahead of time, at least on the smaller bits and bobs. And then the longer pieces like this, I might have gone through and tapped them somewhat. All right. Once again, all of my gears here are nylon, so it's not going to make that big of a deal if I get a little bit of excess grease around them. They're going to be fine with that. And like I said, it's not like we're trying to lubricate gears here. We're just trying to lubricate the screws to help them go in easier, especially on these longer screw paths. All right. There we go. We've got our first gears set up. We had M2 by 20 down through the top. These are to strengthen the gear. And then M2 by 30 through the bottom to add this nub. And this nub's going to be one of the things that a bearing goes on. So I'll have a bearing on either side of this. So we did that once. And now it's going to tell us to put bearings on, one on each side. These should be a nice, good press fit. Too good of a press fit. I might have to. This side went in a little bit easier. This side not as easy. Back off. I'm just going to do some light tapping. A little bit harder tapping. I feel like it's supposed to be right up against that edge. So close. There we go. That one's on. This one went on a little bit easier, a little snugger. So there's our pieces, and once again, bearing at either side. We'll go ahead and do that for the rest of them. Unless you just had a burr on the side of that one or something. Because all the others are going in very easily. There we go. Once again, now where it says here, prepare 3 of these. So we've got all 3 of them prepared and ready to move on. Now we'll have this little baggie. Go ahead and have a seat because my hips hurt me a bit. And let me tell you, some of these are a pain in the butt to figure out what was what. Not for anything other than I had them in so many different bags that I was finding pieces that I thought would have been in the gear bag in a different bag. So we're going to take and do 2 M2 by 25 screws through the back side here into the holes that are countersunk for them. Same thing, we'll put a little dab of grease on the end. Grease our screws in. And these are just reinforcing screws. Which I find it interesting that we're putting reinforcing screws in here. Once again, I printed mine out of nylon. They're going to be very good and high strength to begin with. I'm not sure, some of that is for PLA, but when you print these parts, you're printing these at a 0.16 layer height, 30 perimeters, and 95% concentric infill. So you're pretty much putting them solid. So then it goes reinforce it, and I guess pretty much solid plastic at this. All right, so we've got those two screws in that piece. Now we're going to grab, which one? We'll grab this piece, which once again has the V2 on it. You're looking to make sure that you're getting the right one with the right version number on it. We're going to go ahead and put two M2 by 12 through the middle here. Should be fine, but we'll just keep up the mantra of adding a couple threads worth of lube at the end of this. So how's it going, Mad Owl? Doing anything fun to you this weekend? Is anybody doing anything fun this weekend? All right. So those two are now in that center piece. Now we're going to join these two together with M2 by 30 screws. And they'll be back to back, so we'll have to line these suckers up. Great. Get these started, and then we'll put some grease on the other side, maybe. Not. Grease in on this side. Yeah, definitely would not have been a bad idea to drill through some of these and just leave the, you know, whatever part it's going into to thread that part in. What's going on? Like that one? Oh, you like that one, that's okay. I think I already put it away. We'll get these two started, and then we'll go in and do the other two. All righty. And we're going to have to dial up our torque, huh? And we rounded the bit, or rounded, rounded the bit. Nope, rounded the screw, even better. Did we round it, or did we just get some grease down? Caused it. rounded the screw head over. Dang it. All right. I'm going to have to get the tap out, and we'll at least, at the very least, start the tap to give the screw something to bite into, and then we'll go from there. We go to tap every single one of these holes, it's going to be a long night. But if we have to spend half the night trying to dig out screws with stripped heads, it will also be a long night. All right. A little bit easier to get these started. All right. One. We're getting it going here at an angle, so we'll see if we can't get this fixed. Hoping I was going to be able to get these going and help push the head of the strip bolt out, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Don't want to have to cut a bolt right off the bat. So we'll just back these out and we'll give it another try. If I can get most of them out and just that one's left in there, then we can use the gear itself to kind of rotate and hopefully unscrew what's left of that. We'll get it knocked out. Three of the four out. Now let's see if I can just get this other one to at least unscrew. And I'll be able to knock that out, drill it out or something, and then we'll get the rest of these done. Either that or I wonder if I can just screw the darn thing in this way. Good news is that screw started coming out. Bad news is I think the head is still stripped, so I'm not going to be able to cleanly get it out. I'm going to have to get out with a pair of pliers and twist it out. So bear with me one second. Lesson learned. The good news is it's at least partially threaded already, so that's something. So who's working on any fun projects now? Is everybody also watching what? Liz is doing her stream tonight for charity for St. Jude's. Lots of giveaways over there. So please be listening to her over on Twitch. I believe, like I said, Canuck Creator should be over on YouTube doing his UNIMOG build. Wish I could say this is the first time that I have stripped the head of a long screw on a build. But that'll be a no. If you've ever built a death racer, you know, the propensity for having this specific type of issue. I think I sheared 3 bolt heads off of those M3 by 50 countersunk screws for the wheels when I was doing my initial build. So much fun. All right, one part out. We're going to be grabbing the drill over there and getting ourselves set up to start drilling out a lot of these holes as well. Figure out what we did with the on the bits. So the Folgertech FT6 is printing. I think it'll do better with like a 0.6 nozzle on it than the 0.4 just because the bed is so bad. I was talking with Lomax, who's the owner of the printer, to see what he wanted to do because it is quite possible that, well, it may wind up being that we need to find a place to throw bad screws now. We're going to do up a quote and see about getting the 713 maker bed and bed carriage, which may wind up causing us to do a few other upgrades. We, you know, with the heavier bed carriage and bed, we would have to go ahead and upgrade the Z-axis to turn it into dual Z versus single motor belt driven. We'd probably just have to go to 2 motors to make up for the added weight. So because this is going into this piece, I'm going to drill these out to 2 millimeters. That way the screws will go in here a lot easier. And we, like I said, we basically have a little bit of tapping done on the other side. Okay, let's see. Make life a lot better. This is definitely working a lot better right now, so. I think that'll be the way to go for future parts tonight, is pre-drilling them and then tapping at least just a couple of threads going through. All righty, there we go. We got that done. Now, a couple more bearings. One's on. It showed going on that side, and now it shows bearing going on this side, and then we're going to run in the other piece. So before we put the bearing in, I am going to go ahead and tap a couple of threads into these holes. And these are M2 by 30, so might as well tap a good ways. So, hey, John Doe. Yeah, we're having fun tonight. We started doing our gear portions. The side camera is deciding that it doesn't want to work so much. Let's see. All right, it's going to work for a little bit. Nope. No, it's not. So the side camera keeps taking a siesta on me. And we've already stripped the head of one of the bolts of an M3, or excuse me, M2 by 30. So we decided we were going to start trying to tap some of these holes, at least partially, to give us a little bit easier time. And then the parts that we're screwing through into the other part that we're tapping, we're just going to drill that out with a 2mm bit so that our screws aren't fighting the whole way in. And this is pretty easy to tap. This is nylon. This is the Overture Easy Nylon. So it does not take a whole heck of a lot to tap these. And we're going to be going through this small, tiny piece as if they are all huge or not. So who else out there is looking at building a UNIMOG kit? Anybody else out there thinking or planning on building one of these? And we're pushing the bearing on. And then we're going in with, it's kind of got a sloped edge to it. So the flat edge is on the outside, the sloped edge is the side that's going up here. M2x30 still. Get a faint amount of grease on there. Get it started a couple of turns and rinse and repeat. UNIMOG is too rich for your budget? Gotcha. Yeah, it is a bit of a cost. And KB3D, how's it going, Chris? Hope you're doing good today. Thank you for the resubscribe at tier 3 for a total of 40 months. Holy cow, dude. Holy cow. Doing good. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? So I appreciate you getting this kit to me as quickly as possible. Chris, I was losing my mind and I had everything printed and I just could not wait. So we did go ahead and print the, build the cab. We've got the cab built and we've got the bed built for this. So I was just waiting for the kit to come in so I can build the gearbox and stuff because I wasn't going to go and start buying a bunch of bearings and stuff like that. Screws is one thing, a bunch of bearings is completely different. All right, so that part's now done. Now we're going to take this piece, and it's got a cutout for the head of the screws to go into, and then your two countersunk holes here are going to drive down into this with some M2x12s. Let's go ahead and clear these out some. Make our life a little bit easier. And Chris, sorry I couldn't help you with those parts you were looking for. And these were what, M2x12? A couple of those. Now we should be good to go without having to tap these. M2x12s aren't that bad. Get the one started. Other one started. The build so far is pretty good. I'm having fun. Just making sure that our gearbox or our gear is matching. The pain in the butt part is my bench camera over there keeps taking a siesta and freezing on me, which is annoying as all get out. And we're finding that drilling out and then tapping some of our holes is making our lives a little bit easier. If a little bit slower, but you know, less chance. Well, it's only fast until you get a M30 screw about 25 millimeters in and then strip the head of the screw. Then you got to take everything back apart and so Chris, I've asked everybody if they were going to build one of these. Are you all going to build one for the shop? Maybe do some shop colors. Maybe get another battery pack on it and drive it around with a rook printing on the back of it. But there's a lot of things that you want to do. Yeah, like stream again. We'd love to have you streaming again, Chris. And while you're here, what have you set an actual date for the extended KB3D open house? It'll be set before the end of the month? Good, good, good. I need to plan my fall events, and some of those fall events are going to be going to your place. Others will be going to, we're going to go to Frankfurt. Gonna go back to Frankfurt. So we are putting just a dab of grease that was provided by LDO at the end of these screws just to make them easier to go in. Yeah, these long screws can definitely build up heat. You don't want to cause any deformities. Okay. There we go. There's the next piece of our gearbox. Again, all of our gears were printed in Overture Easy Nylon. MP bearing. Yep. Good to go. Now it looks like we're going to do this bag of bearings. Yes, yes, yes. There you go. You should go to Form Next sometime, Chris. It was lots of fun last year, and I definitely want to go back and visit Germany again and take Mrs. Dragon with me. So please, 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 when they put the letters on here, in this case, this is the B gear, make sure that you're using the right gear at the right time. CNC Kitchen's demanding that you attend. Well, you should. And good for Stefan to demand that you attend. Yeah, it's loads and loads of fun. There are so many cool machines there. All right, so that one's done, and this one we'll see. Oh wait, let's follow the instructions. M2 by 25. Got to put 3 screws in this side that I just tapped. This is for reinforcing. Yeah, as I was saying, it's pretty interesting that we're using long screws as quote-unquote reinforcing on parts that you're printing with 95% concentric infill and 30 walls. I mean, these parts are darn near solid at this point. But I get it. We want to make sure. I know Chris, too, is really interested in building one of these. Yeah, literally, it said 0.16 layer height, 30 walls, 95% concentric infill. And I'm like, at 30 walls, there's not much left. there's not much left to do infill. And when you say 95%, like, I don't know if they're just trying to leave some expansion for the expected, you know, bulge out from the screws or what. So B got it at that end. The other end, we're going to flip this around and we're going to screw this in with M2 by 25s. We're going to have to try and drill these out so that we don't have too many problems. All right. These once again are M3, or excuse me, M2 by 25. And make sure you got your orientation right so the little bump on the nub is towards the part that we're joining this to. I did not pre-drill these or pre-tap these, did I? Yeah. Well, not necessarily handle all the quote-unquote boost. It's, in this case, it's going to be handling just the weight of the machine. And, you know, the motor is, what did we say it was, like 40 amp brushless? Okay. And there we go. I had a feeling we were going to put a bearing on each end. It was kind of looking that way. There we go. Tight fit on the bearings, which is always good. I think we're close, and if we have to adjust, we'll adjust a little bit on the fly. Or just Squeeze it a little bit harder. Hey, Killer Prince, how's it going? New Mexico. Are you partially starting your move now, or by partially I mean like on the way of the move? Check parts orientation and the bearing position. Closer on the left, a little bit further out on the right. Yep. All right, so we've got all that done. Now we need part A, which is not that part. What that's doing. Part A. Part A, next bag. So how's it going, Killa? All right, so while everybody's, we got a bunch of new people here. Let's go ahead and show everybody what we've got done of the Unimog so far. Dun, dun, dun. So this is not using the LDO kit parts right here. This is me just building ahead. I will print another cabin and build another cabin. This is in Bamboo Lab Metal Oxide Green, which is a fantastic color. And I'm going to print a complete different cab, and that cab will match the camper. So I'll have one setup that'll be with the cab and the bed, and then I'll be able to swap it over to the camper setup and take it to different shows and show it off differently. So far, so good. Leaving town was challenging. Yeah. Oh, this thing is massive. And the simple fact that you can open the doors on it and look inside and see the whole cab layout. It's got pedals, it's got floor mats, the whole 9 yards. It is freaking amazing. So, yeah, this is just looking at these parts as they were coming off the printer. I wanted to start like assembling them as they were coming off. Okay, so once again, we're looking for specific gears here. So we want the gear piece that's marked A on it. And we're going to be putting 3 long screws through here and into this other gear hub. One side of this gear has a little lip on it. The other's flat. So we'll be putting A against that flat side with a bearing on it. Which means we're going to run a drill through this side to make it easier. And on the gear itself, we're going to go ahead and start some taps in here, just so we don't have a hard time when we first start getting these things threaded in. Yeah, Casadio does an amazing job. I know there's a couple of other setups out there for Unimogs that use, instead of printed, instead of printed axles, they use regular RC axles and stuff. and they'll be a little bit more robust if you're going out and doing the full rock crawling and stuff like that. I'll be quite honest, this is going to be a display here at the shop, and I have a decent sized RC community here. So I'm probably going to figure out how to source a couple of these from the Triad, meaning get a couple from KB3D, West 3D, or Fabrico, since I won't be able to meet LDO's MOQ, and just get a couple that I can get in store and still sell them at the same price. Because I am pretty sure after seeing this that a couple of the folks that were here for our RC day are going to be wanting one. Okay, now this one goes on a little bit easier, and there's some end-to-end play that I'm sure will help. We will align that down the road. We need the M2 by 30s. And it does say just one bearing. That one there. There. Turns on. But yeah, these files are definitely really well thought out. The details there. What we find with the nylon, you use PC ABS blend for the gear and driveline, but eventually did change over to the metal axles, but not gotten it out on the trail yet. Gotcha. Yeah. Like I said, I decided to go all nylon here. I just felt that it was the best way to go. And I decided against doing like PC ABS because that can just lead to its own can of worms. I know this bearing is going to be adjusted based on where it goes in. So we got a bearing, 3 screws in. You can see a turnbuckle, yep, coming. Go ahead and drill through both of these now. And like I said, for what I'm doing it for, I am not going to take this on the trail. But it is, well, I say that, who knows? Who knows? Maybe it's one of those things that I go down to one of the RC days and just run it around at one of the RC meets. I know there's definitely a lot of people that will be interested in them. That, and I like that there's a quote-unquote light version for people that already have the remotes and batteries and all that good stuff. So if you don't need it all, you don't have to get it all. If you need it all, then you know you'll have the option of getting it all. These are M2 by 16. There is, like I said, a butt ton of these in this kit. Realize, put that in there, but we didn't start any holes, did we? I don't need to tap these much. I'm just going to do the two opposite ends just to help align it. Hey, Kenneth D, how's it going? Welcome in. Oh yeah, that's, so the LDO kit is, I will say, extremely complete to include clear PET G, red PET G, like translucent red PET G for the rear lights, and translucent yellow PET G for the the roof lights. And in true true LDO fashion, right? Give me a second, folks. Something just made I got off a racket over here. I think it was just a spool getting extra light. Loud noises when you're in a building by yourself. Okay, one more M2 by 16 screw. Okay. I think what it is it's a Sunloo spool that I have in there in the kitty box, and it's just being lifted up and out that's making all that noise. All right, so we got our turnbuckle and our gear in place, right? Now we're going to need the short little nubby, and we're going to put some screws through this. So we're going to drill through this hub as well. Okay, so we drilled through that. We're going to come into this side, and we're going to be using some M3 by 30s. So we're going to put some taps down in here a ways. And while I'm tapping, I will give another public service announcement. I did this earlier. Regarding filament from Hobby Lobby. Okay. I'm not going to talk about all filament from Hobby Lobby. Everybody can have their own opinion there. What I'm going to tell you is I have had 2 customers now. One was a FlashForge 85M, not the Pro, but just standard 85M. that had this issue, and I just had a P1S that was driven here from South Carolina. So I drove an hour and a half to get here. Why I started late tonight, because they were here until after the store officially closed, because I wasn't going to have them leave their printer. But the PLA wood filament, twice now I have had nozzles that have been clogged, and I've had to take the hot ends out of the printer and use the heat gun to heat them up thoroughly to get the clog out of the heat throat. This was not a heat creep issue. This is a crazy blob issue. Let me see if this bench camera will work long enough. So that side, bring you all in. Okay. Darn it. Sorry, folks. Okay. These right here, see how dark and nasty that is? That was the part that I managed to finally get out after it was at well over 300 C. Once that spurted out all over the place and I finally got the blob out, it started coming out like this, which is what it should look like. So, two different people, same filament, which is the wood PLA from Hobby Lobby, that have clogged different machines, and it's just nasty. So if I'm having to heat a PLA up to 280 or higher to push filament out, it's obviously contaminated with something other than PLA. Oh, hey, Icarus, how's it going? Sorry, I was trying to see red on black. Doesn't work well for me. So I don't know about any other filament from Hobby Lobby's lineup. The biggest things that I've heard is inconsistency in what they have in stock, and also like colors, meaning I got red today. I got red 3 weeks later, and it was a completely different shade of red. Right? I've also had where I got red, and then I wasn't able to find red for, a month at my particular Hobby Lobby. Right? So those are comments that I'm hearing from people that have run Hobby Lobby or have used Hobby Lobby filaments. But like I said, I am experiencing through customers coming in with jammed, clogged nozzles, some really, really, really nasty stuff, especially as it goes with the PLA wood filament. So, just a heads up, PSA from me to you. I personally have not used any of the Hobby Lobby filament, but this is what I am seeing and experiencing as a 3D printer repair center, right? Hey Pete, how's it going? How you feeling, my friend? My camera is froze again. I am really getting upset with that camera. But we'll come over here. Got the main camera up here. Sorry, I've tried plugging that one into different USB ports, and it's just no bueno. Does not want to play nicely. So All right, so we got that one in. Now we're going to take our turnbuckle, U-joint, whatever you want to refer to it as, and we'll tap these holes just a little bit, hopefully. Tap the hole. Oh, and yes, those folks that are on Twitch and YouTube, I have to fix my affiliate links for Polymaker. You have a new affiliate link for them in their new affiliate system. But as always, if you're interested in some e-packs, Bamboo Labs, and don't want to go to Bamboo Labs and want to support one of your local makers, well, feel free to hit me up. If I do ship, the shipping integration on my site is still not functioning through no lack of interest and pain on my part. So much pain trying to get that integration going on any of the main characters or carriers. All right. And these go with M2x16s. A little bit of grease on there. I feel like I'm using grease like Loctite for these. But we aren't. We're using the grease to actually reduce the friction as these are being driven in, especially on the long 20, 25, 30 millimeter screws. Get too much friction, you will strip the heads out of these. I haven't had problems with shearing a head off on the socket heads, but on M3 countersunk, when we were building the Death Racer the first time around, I think I sheared like 3 50 millimeter bolts, which is always fun. Okay. Piece of nylon sticking out from the hole that got pushed through, so we'll clear that out so we don't have an issue when this gets laid into its resting place. A bearing pulled to the left side. This bearing's in where it's at. Ooh, and speaking of the gearbox, we need, which one? This one. It's going to go on this short side where this should line up at and drop it in there. putting it in the right orientation so that the bearings fall down right into their respective areas. Make sure that everything is moving nicely. Then we're going to take our other bearing, the one or drive gear that had the bearing on either side, and we're going to go ahead and lay this in there. Couple of these. Because they weren't. Okay. We need to make sure that the herringbone points are pointed towards each other. Should drop down in there. If it doesn't, may need to, there we go. Yeah. In this case, one of my bearings is not down and straight. That bearing's down in there. Ooh. Finger all in the goo. All right, so our gears are now meshing nicely and moving. I know it'd be great if I did it with a lighter gear or a lighter color filament, but it is what it is. And now it's going to tell us to apply a lot of grease, and we're going to do in the gears as well as on the edges. So on the gears and then on the edges of these U-joints or ball joints. So this is where having something other than your finger to goop on or goop some stuff on would have been a great idea, so that we could just grab some grease and slap it on there. And on your on these gears, as you roll it around, it should pick up some more of that grease and work it through its gear systems. Probably not my best idea either. You probably have some acid brushes or something, and I do have some acid brushes at the house that I can use, so I'll have to grab some of those for the shop and have them here for the next stream. But we are all like greasied up right there. Got a lot of crap all over my hands now, so that's great. We've got the cover for this area. Make sure that all of your any brim or any of the support material, just make sure it's fully out and not present. I'm just making sure that everything's rotating before I go ahead and put screws in here. We're going to do M2x16 screws everywhere. But of course, let me go ahead and I'm going to drill through this half and we'll just push down in the other half. I'm not going to take this all the way in just yet. I'm going to get all of them started and then I'll finish them off at the same time. You went through no less than 3 bits. They all rounded off just enough to not work well. Yep. You went with a German driver and went and got it the rest of the way. Yep. Get these close and then we'll finish it off with hand tightening. And you do want everything to close up nicely. You don't want all that grease that you just put in there to get out. You want it to stay in there and keep everything well lubricated. All right, there we go. Those are turning. I'm seeing the gear turning up here, so we're good there. Everything is moving smoothly. Now we're going to take, in this orientation, we're going to put our longer shaft down in here, making sure that our trying to make sure that everything is knocked down, smoothed out. Should have done that beforehand. I thought I had done it on all of them, but apparently this one I may have onced over too much. All righty. This way, this guy is going to lay down right here. The bearings should line up, and if they don't, then give them a wiggle, a squeeze. A bit of a pounding. Go. That's all fitting. And we'll take one of these. Should line up, and that does. And all of the gear type surfaces, we're going to squirt some grease on. I don't know if I got any more here that, oh yeah, there's a bit. That out. I don't know how much is good, how much is too much. Is there such a thing as too much in these gearboxes? I'm sure it will work around and find its way in all the nooks and crannies. This is probably why they give us so many little grease packs. Get rid of this and just find myself an actual glove. Pair of scissors. Pair of scissors. Move the gloves on. Come on now. All of them back here? Sorry, folks, bear with me one moment. All right. Ourselves a couple of gloves and more grease. Hey, Alex, how's it going? Swinging by to say hi. Well, hello. All right. That edge off. Throw our scissors into what little grease we had left there. We're going to be finger painting with grease tonight, apparently. Because I do believe the adage here is can't have enough. At least I don't think we can have enough, so. All right. Those on there, and now we're going to take this other piece. Down on top, just so. A couple of M2x16s down at this end. Pop this off so I don't make too much of a mess of my tools. Yeah, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe button. Throw some hype over and emojis. Do it all, do it all. All right, M2x16. Light dab of grease right there. Nice and tight. Check for motion. All right. Flip this thing over and we're going to put some more M2x16 screws in. Probably make this actually work a little bit easier than how I was making it work. So how's it going, Alex? How was the Maker Making podcast last night? Last night. Oh, and thank you for the follow there, Foretold. How's it going? Welcome on in. So the make and model of that is Amazon. I don't really know much beyond that. It's one I got off Amazon a while back. It's decent. You probably get the same from like Harbor Freight. Okay, while we have it in this orientation, we need to put the cross member on. We're going to put this on with some M2 by 10s. You see how tight these top holes are. Kind of tight. Whoop. And there goes the first screw of the night. M2 down on the floor. And those are a little bit easier to find on the floor because of the epoxy coating that we have on the floor. I am going to try and, at the very least, start the taps here. At least do so on like 2, because that'll help get me started and align this bracket. Drill through the 4 holes just to make it easier. And this is a 2mm drill bit that I'm using, so it's slight wiggle as far as the bolt being able to go through, but it's not like a 2.5. I mean, I say slight. It's got a little bit of wiggle to it, not much. We should have enough threads that we just did with the tap to at least get 2 corners started, and that'll make it easier to align and drive all 4 in. We're letting this get us close, and then we will finish tighten it by hand at the end so that we can gauge the torque on them. All right, there we go. Now what's next? Hey, we're going to throw a couple more gears in the top of the gearbox here. Like that. And like that. Things are not lining up and meshing well. Now would be the time to fix that. I think that works. Hold to squirt grease on all 4 of these. I'm apparently enjoying playing with the grease that I said I was going to get gloves for, and then proceeded to take the gloves off and not put them back on. But I think we're close enough to done on this particular part where we're dealing with the grease. I'm going to put the top on this. Okay. M2 by 16 in 3 places. There we go. Finish these off by hand. Making sure that all the sides close up nicely. And then making sure that everything turns. Hey, Ramon, how's it going? Welcome on in. So we are getting movement all the way through the gearbox. Hey, Liz, how's it going? Welcome on in. So, wow, I guess I missed your stream completely tonight. My apologies. We had a customer that came in about 6:30 that had driven all the way from South Carolina. So they drove like an hour and a half, 2 hours to get here to have their P1S worked on. So I wasn't going to have them leave it and then, you know, come back and get it tomorrow. So we worked on that, which got us a little bit later start, but we be here. All right, there's another M2 by 16 screw. Ah, it goes, where are we looking at? Ah, at this end. So we'll get that going. This is a reinforcing screw. And we'll get it close and then we'll finish it off by hand. You crushed the gold for St. Jude, $3,500. Amazing. That is awesome. Hey, Delta Trader, how's it going? Now we need another M2 by 16 down here at this end. Does not say reinforcing, so this is going to close the clamshells together. All right, so there is our full gearbox so far. We're gonna go ahead and grab that motor that we pulled out earlier. Motor that we pulled out earlier and set aside. This is a Hobby Wing Fusion SE brushless system for crawler, 2-in-1. It's a 40 amp, 1200 kilovolt brushless motor. Oh. User's manual, power, all kinds of stuff here. Motor, don't think we need any of that just yet. That later. Garbage, garbage, garbage. Yeah, this is what I was trying to say before. So LDO kits, premium kits. You need to do some tail lights in translucent red. This is enough to do like 30 meters. You could probably, at the settings they tell you, you could probably easily do 50 sets of lights, if not more. Transparent yellow, another 30 meters. This is all PET G. This would be for the top lights across the top of the cab. And then your clear PET G for the headlights. And once again, there's enough here that you could probably print headlights for 30, 40, 50 models at this point, based on what I did when I printed my tail lights. So, plenty. All right, and guess what? This is where we're going to use some of those M3 screws. So we're going to use those to secure to the motor. So the P1S issue was Hobby Lobby filament. So this is the second machine that I had a FlashForge 85M come in. And then I had a P1S that came in. And it was the Hobby Lobby PLA wood. It feels really weird, like the filament wise. It feels like a matte filament, but also like not nearly as rigid as a PLA, right? So it's almost, it feels like a matte weird. It is a little brittle, but in this case, it's contaminated. So anytime you have to heat up a nozzle to 280 degrees, okay, the one thing I'm going to look at is the orientation. It's showing the areas where the wires are coming out is facing the top of the curve. So that's how we're going to line this up and screw this in. Yeah, I had to heat it up to 280 to get the filament to push through. And when it pushed through, it was this nasty brown thick stuff, right? And then it started, as soon as I got that big blob out, it started coming out like you would expect normal filament to look like. So yeah, it's just that filament. I don't know anything else from Hobby Lobby filaments. I've never used them, but I've done repairs on 2 of those. It's weird. It is just weird. All right, so those are down there and nice and snug. Gearbox gear. There another gear. There was another gear. And this is a gear that has the knurling on the end. All right. We're going to put some M2x20s through here for reinforcing. So I'll grab a couple of those, and I'm also, get a couple. I'm going to go ahead and pre-tap these a bit, just to make sure that we're not causing ourselves issues. But yeah, so far that's the only one I've really had experience with, and it's all been negative. I've had the majority of what I hear is it's inconsistent color and inconsistent stocking. Like, oh, I got red, and I haven't been able to find red at that Hobby Lobby for like a month. And how's it going, K2? Welcome in. Hey, Clown Hammer, how's it going? Yep. And there was a little like 2mm piece that popped out. Oh, I see, Kevin. Clown Hammer is your brother. What am I? You're boycotting shows until I show up? Nice. So the taps I'm using here are taps from KB3D. So you can actually get like the little tap holders for them and everything. Yeah. And then I've got a couple of special taps here that we needed for the black box. So this is here. We're going to put these M2x20s in. See if we got any more grease residue on that bag. Even though we tapped them, having a little bit of grease on the end of this is going to help them go on even more, especially once we hit the section that wasn't fully tapped. So, and keep the friction down. So how are my peeps over on YouTube? I'm really liking this little fan tech. We would not have made it this far if I was having to screw all these in by hand, considering the number of 20, 25, and 30mm screws that we've been doing. Is your camera mirrored or those left-hand screws. My camera's probably mirrored. This is my left, which looks left to me when I look at the camera. This is my right. And you're going to tell me to flip my camera, aren't you? Is that better? Or this is my left and this is my right? Well, you're not supposed to use it as a hammer, Kevin. Okay, so now we're going to take this and we're going to use our M3x8s, or some of our M3x8s, to mount our flange that will attach to the motor. So we need 4 of these. And that motor flange. And there are some grub screws in this motor flange kit. Leave them in there. Resist the urge to install those. Resist the urge. Did warranty cover that? Well, they might have until they made that comment on stream. Now they might rethink their position. So I will do my best on the next stream, which should be Tuesday night, to have my proper shirt on for that stream. We will be, at that point, we're not going to stay too much longer. We're going to finish the gearbox and get that installed. And then the next stream, we'll start working on the axles. And there's going to be plenty of parts in the axle that will also need to be lubed with copious amounts of grease. So we're going to install this pinion gear with the flange towards the motor, like so. Apparently it's just going to bottom out on the motor. Cool. There is a flat. I'm going to turn that flat to this opening here, which will make our life easier. You just line up the hole to the flat. And then they want us to use M3x4 screws. They're more reliable compared to the grub screws. That's why we didn't use the grub screws. And they recommend a drop of super glue. Oh, crap. Right, found it. They recommend a drop of super glue. I'm actually going to use Loctite, the blue stuff. This part might be PLA, but the gear itself is nylon. And we're going to be close. We're going to be far enough away, actually, from the PLA anyhow that we shouldn't have any reaction at all. So just a drop of Loctite on there. Screw that in, going onto the flat first. Rotate it around. Oh, definitely put it on the flat since there's only one on this flange. I thought there was two. Because it says now repeat for the other screw. There's only one screw hole on this flange. So, we're done. We got an extra M3x4. I don't think I have a bin for that. Do not. I'll have to create one of those because I think I have some more M3x4s over here for other things. Cool. Okay, now the gearbox is there. We're going to put in some M2x6 reinforcing screws here. And we're going to do that by hand. Do that by hand. After we tap this, hopefully. Yeah, with the motor in the way. Gosh darn it. All right, well, we're just going to have to make do. Worked. These are just going on the end tabs, and it's just reinforcing that area because you're going to have screws holding this motor in. So we're putting the screws in here, and what that's doing is reinforcing this area right here where we're going to have two screws that are going to mount and hold this motor in. So now we're going to put one of our bearings on the end of this pinion. Luckily that slipped on without a hitch. Apply a lot of grease. Okay. A lot will occur because we're going to open up a new thing of grease. And we just kind of basically put a whole thing of grease on there. Should probably work that in a little bit. Did say a lot, so we put a lot on there. And this is going to get inserted into the end of our gearbox. Maybe so. Okay, I don't believe there's supposed to be a gap there. So what is preventing? Or is that perfectly? Oh, there is not supposed to be a gap there. At least not one that I can tell. Anybody's built one of these? Nope, doesn't look like there should be a gap. I think it's just the bearing not getting fully seated. Okay, there we go. We're starting to get it in. Close the gap up quite a bit. And let's see, we've got to put 4 M2 by 12 screws in. On the motor side forward. This will help seat it. So go ahead and get these going. mic died. Hopefully you can hear me again. Sorry about that. That is a good indicator that I've been on here for. Once again, I'm just getting these just proud. This is going to sit down in here. Motor towards the front. Gears heading towards the back. So what I'm trying to figure out is where, oh where. This is mounting against the side rail. I just put these screws in. There's nothing even remotely close on this motor for that to dig into. Okay. Go ahead and take these out. Okay. And M2x20s into the rear vertical. Sideways, 2x20. I think we're going to come in and the other side in the two locations. Almost done. And once we get this locked in and we get to go into the next section, I will be calling the stream. And we'll be left with a mounted motor. closer on our journey. Righty. These down. What does everybody think so far? Pretty cool design, pretty cool build. Got our motor in, got movement on our motor. We bound our motor. That's not. Had it moving. Getting movement. There's just a lot of gearing in place. Just wonder if it's just a lot to overcome by hand, or it just needs to work some of that grease in. Yeah, Connect Creator was going to be building his MOG tonight as well. Yeah, we've got movement. Now, with that there, what I want to do, other than put this on the charger so it's charged tonight, is toss the tab up there since it is semi nearby. Give everybody don't have any of the cab mounts on, but the windows out. I'm gonna give you an idea of cab and everything. Now I get to try and figure out how many screws I get to take out to put the window back in that I just out. But hey, here we are, folks. I think that's where we're going to end the night at. So thanks everybody. Next up is going to be start working on the drive line, which will be axle, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Some of this is going to be very similar all the way through, while others are going to be a lot different just because of the way the axles are and the different. So let me go. Thank you all for being here tonight. I really appreciate everybody coming, stopping by on both YouTube and Twitch. We have made some good progress. This is turning into a really, really cool build. I'm really excited for this. So we'll be doing a lot more on this throughout the next couple of weeks, trying to get this ready before we get done in July. So we have time to go run this around and play around with it out in the park. Thanks everybody for being here. Hopefully we'll have this pretty well wrapped up and on display during the next Maker Meetup on first Sunday in August 2nd. But take care, everybody. I'm going to go recharge my batteries. Exactly. Charge all the batteries, including myself. Guys, have a great night. Love you all. Stay safe. Bye now.